recording. We're live. Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 20, 2025 Urbandale City Council meeting. I will call the meeting to order and ask Angie to take roll call, please.
Bodie.
Here.
Carberry Montgomery. Here. Rosendahl.
Here.
Cacciatore.
Here.
Kroll. Here.
All right, please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Rosendahl, second by
Second.
Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, thank you. Item 3, presentations. We have one proclamation for National Public Works Week 2025. Whereas public works professionals focus on the infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities, and to the public health and the high quality of life the residents and businesses of Urbandale expect. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public work professionals, who are the engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply and treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and whereas 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, which since 1960 has energized and educated the public on the importance of public works in their daily lives. National Public Works Week is a week to inquire and learn and appreciate Urbandale's public works professionals who plan, build, manage, and maintain the city's 220 miles of streets, 240 miles of sanitary sewer, 210 miles of storm sewer, collect 310 tons of garbage and yard waste weekly, and who will oversee the construction of over $16 million in public infrastructure in 2025. Now therefore, I, Robert Andoig, Mayor of the City of Urbandale, on behalf of the Urbandale City Council, do hereby designate the week of May 18th to the 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week. And I'm going to fix my signature, and I'd ask, I think Tim Stovey and Steve Chambers are here. I'd like to have them come up and accept this.
This is going to be helpful.
I just wanted to introduce Steve Chambers. Steve's been here for 44 years this fall. I think this might be his last public works. Thank you, I appreciate working here. I'm glad you put up with me for all these years.
We're going to keep it a little bit. All right.
Tell people anyway.
Thanks, guys.
These are broken. Why bother to spend money on
All right, we will move on to Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's regular agenda. Is there anyone who would like to address the council at this time? All right, seeing none, then we move on. Item 5, the adoption of the minutes first from the May 5 meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes, and then secondly, from the May 13 Lunch and Learn.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 6 is the consent agenda. We have 14 items for approval.
Motion. Go ahead. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. You'll note as part of the consent agenda that the special event request for the 4th of July is on that for approval. We are going to have the 4th of July again this year. The 4th of July committee was going to be here tonight to sell buttons, but the buttons didn't come in time, so they will be here for the June, second meeting in June. So, but they will be on sale very soon, so get your dollars out and buy those 4th of July buttons. All right, we will move on then to public hearings. Item 7.1 is a public hearing to consider the Urbandale Downtown Master Plan. And if I find my public notices here. Public notice for this was published in the May 9, 2025 Des Moines Register. Any objections to that notice is published? Nope. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And to introduce the item is our Assistant City Manager, Curtis Brown. Curtis?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the time. On behalf of the entire team that's been working on the development of the draft downtown master plan that you have, we are glad to present this at the public hearing to get feedback from the community, which is the next step in a long line of feedback we've been receiving and from you all. So we'll get started. My part of the presentation will simply be to provide an overview of the 8 recommendations and a little context on where we've been and where we're going. But really, we want to make sure that there's an opportunity to have a public hearing, and then the subject matter experts in the room, principally our chief consultant from Bolton & Menk, will be able to field those questions and answer those as they come up. So the draft master plan is really built around 8 different recommendations, and we'll move through those and their sub-recommendations here. The first is to reconfigure Douglas as a 3-lane road. A few major reasons why. To prioritize pedestrian space and safety over vehicles, create enhanced pedestrian crossings at major intersections, and then also a recommendation to underground those overhead power lines where they cross Douglas, and where possible, relocate power lines to the rear of properties along Douglas. Did include the cross-section of Douglas as it currently is, with the 2 lanes in each direction, to what it's anticipated to be in the future, with 1 lane in each direction, a center turn lane, and then room for parking. That also gives the opportunity to activate the sidewalks a bit more, create more of a pedestrian friendly space to be. Also, in Bolton & Menk's work on this, they have looked at different areas where we might need turn lanes, et cetera, through the corridor. So it's not to full design, but we've started to think those things through. But this is a sample cross-section of how it might change. And by the way, this conversion from 2 lanes in each direction to the 1 lane with center turn lanes is is what Des Moines has already done east of Merle Hay on Douglas. Recommendation number 2 is to focus redevelopment at strategic locations. I'm going to say right now, the terms we've been using are big node and little node. Those are placeholders that came up at the Plan and Zoning Commission. Are those the names? They are not. They are placeholders for planning purposes. But the first is a large development node at the northwest quadrant of 70th and Douglas. The other is a little node at the intersection of 67th and Douglas. These are the 2 anchor locations or nodes from which we hope to see investment and redevelopment throughout the corridor, but really concentrating public and private investment and effort in those 2 areas we believe will generate interest in redevelopment throughout the corridor. We know that we will need to revise our zoning regulations. That's a top priority for us because the zoning that we have in place right now will not get us to where we want to go with the vision. So we know that needs to happen. We need to establish design guidance as well so people understand the quality and type of buildings we want to see built. We also do recognize that there are assets downtown, whether those are buildings, properties, and businesses that we do want to protect and strategically invest in as well. So this is not a wholesale start over, but working around the assets that we have. Number 3 is to establish a distinct character and identity for the district. So again, we do have some existing features that can either be removed if they're no longer serving their purpose or relocating. So there might be some iconic things, whether it's public art or things like the clock or flagpoles, et cetera, that we can relocate to better spots throughout the downtown area. Look to create different character in the different public realms. So for example, if we have an area where we want to encourage, say, kids to be able to play, so there might be things to climb on, et cetera, then that has an identity consistent with that function. We may have another where the focus is really on public art, for example, or gathering for small, intimate concerts or something like that. But creating different zones within the downtown that start to become a place consistent with what it's built for. Certainly, Urbandale's famous for our public art, so we want to get public art integrated into downtown as well. And then Urbandale does build off some strong assets. Our streetcar turnaround loop, our coal mining history. We're a centennial community. Walnut Creek runs through the community. So there are certain assets that we can repeat throughout this area because they're authentic and we want to create an authentic place. Recommendation number 4 is we do know that while we do want this to be comfortable for pedestrians, we know that we need to accommodate vehicles as well. And so we will likely need to have sites for district or public parking, similar to what you see in Valley Junction, for example, where there's an interior public parking lot off the main street. Reduce vehicle parking minimums for residential development. So recognizing that we might need to accommodate vehicles in residences, but maybe not at the level that we currently do. So how can we perhaps skinny that down a bit? Parking for commercial uses, we do want some of these larger commercial buildings and commercial businesses to plan for some level of parking. So whether it's underground or somehow on their site, alley access, establishing what should be their contribution to the parking effort as well. We do want to encourage turnover in the area as well. So this is a consideration, not a mandate, but a consideration to look at how do you encourage that turnover. Is it metered? Is it time limited? How do we do that? But just recognizing up front that we'll want those spaces that we create on Douglas to turn over. And then finally, the facilitating that access off of Douglas. So right now, most all businesses are accessed through many curb cuts throughout the Douglas corridor. The idea is to get the traffic behind those buildings and to come in and find their place to park rather than having lots of driveways throughout the area. Recommendation 5 is the sub-regional stormwater strategy. So Bolton and Mank, again, in coordination with our internal city team, has divided this overall planning area into 4 major zones that are designed to accommodate their stormwater runoff. One of we've designed this, and we understand that these areas will be able to accommodate stormwater if we build the infrastructure to the level that Urbandale typically does now. We are early in this process. We have a lot of design work to do. One of the principles we're working on is that better is better. So looking for ways to, right now, all of downtown is impermeable surface mostly. So how can we find ways to green it up a little bit, detain a little bit more, in some of these large areas where we're planning public investments, can we hold some stormwater there, either in the surface water, safely I might add, or perhaps in underground storage. And then, of course, recognizing that there will need to be public investment in this infrastructure in order to make the desired private development work. Number 6 is what we're calling middle housing. And so this is simply the idea of taking the asset that is our existing neighborhoods with what is sometimes referred to as naturally occurring affordable housing and really leaning into that. Finding ways to get maximum value out of some of the different sites. So obviously we've talked a lot here about ADUs, but looking at these neighborhoods and allowing for ADUs to be built, expansions of if there's the opportunity to build townhouses on a lot, just create a bit more density, gentle density as we call it, and then in some on the existing single-family lots, but then in other places, looking at where there can be lot consolidation for some moderately sized multifamily. So the examples there are like townhouses or 8-plex apartments. So we're not talking about 30, 40, 50 unit apartments, but just getting a few more families on some of those parcels downtown, but then really doing that in a way that leverages the investment in the core downtown area and then expands out to the different neighborhoods. Number 7 is to encourage bicycle use downtown. So one important aspect of this is that the intent is not to create another trail system through downtown, but to make bikes welcome by coming in through our existing regional trail network that we've built out and really accessing the downtown through the north and the south. So whether that's through neighborhood streets or for example, on 70th Street, if there are bike lanes or sharrows, then creating that comfort for cyclists to get into the downtown area. So in other words, one way to say it is we're not planning on bike lanes on Douglas Avenue. Douglas Avenue is for parking and vehicles, and bikes are more than welcome, but come in from the north and the south. So looking for bicycle parking, and then also in new development, making sure there for residents that there are places to store bikes as well. Then finally, number 8 is a phased strategy for redevelopment. This is the slide that will be coming back, I'm sure, often to the City Council through the CIP process as staff makes recommendations on how to invest in the infrastructure changes that we need to make in order to bring this vision to life. Bolton and Menk has advised phasing this, and so you see west of 70th and then east of 70th. And so they advise starting on that west side. That's where we're seeing at least more of the early development interest, some good opportunities there. And perhaps we look first at Madison and 71st Street. And as we reinvest in the infrastructure there, also joining zoning along with that starts to signal this is the type of development we want to see. So when the public sector invests in infrastructure, this is how we hope the private sector responds. Also look at interim solutions with low-cost pilot projects. That's a way of saying perhaps paint before concrete. And so if we're going to change the lanes on Douglas, perhaps we move first to just restriping it. And then this is constantly working with the private sector to show our investment followed by theirs. And we continue to encourage the investment in the downtown. Also, social infrastructure is very important. What are the ways, besides the 4th of July, that we can encourage people to come downtown? Give them a reason to come there. So it's pop-up events or different types of displays, et cetera, public art, the mural's an example. How can we begin to establish new patterns for the way people use downtown? And then, of course, through this process, we may need to consider strategic property acquisition to really move along the development vision. So those are the 8 recommendations. Want to really make sure that everybody understands this has been a multidisciplinary effort within City Hall and with the team at Bolton and Meg. So we've had economic development, community development, engineering, public works, parks and rec, communications, the city manager's office, all involved in this. And then the team from Bolton and Meg Andrew has been leading the effort together with planners, landscape architects, traffic engineers, and stormwater engineers. So they've complemented our multidisciplinary approach internally with theirs, and I think we've come to a good product here. The engagement to date, and I think this is important throughout this process, openness and transparency and informing has been the key. Aaron and Ebony have arranged 8 meetings with downtown Urbandale business and commercial stakeholders. Over 2,800 postcards were directly mailed last November to households and businesses in the area, notifying them of this plan. As a result of that, 200 people asked to be added to the email list. We've held 2 resident focus groups. We presented to the council last November. Derek and team have kept a monthly section in the citywide newsletter, reaching almost 4,000 people since last fall. Website and social media. On May 1 so this month, we hosted the open house here in the chambers. About 70 people attended, so we're very happy about that. Last week, we had the Plan and Zoning Commission public hearing, where then they endorsed this plan to the City Council. So that's where we've been. So here we are tonight on May 20. The point of having this public hearing from you and the community, is then that this plan stamped draft becomes finalized with the appendices added to it, and then that is brought to the council for consideration at the meeting on June 17. So holding this public hearing now, allowing a chance to make the final refinements to the plan, and then bringing it back for consideration. That is the path. That's the end of my comments. We have a lot of smart people in the room who can answer your questions. And so that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Curtis. Thank you for ushering this whole process. Thank you for everything you've done to usher this process so far. So, any questions for Curtis or anyone else on the staff or on the team at this point from the council?
Curtis, could you speak a little bit about the feedback that you are receiving from existing business and property owners?
That's here. Yeah, so we're going to tag team this all the way through. The best person will default to Andrew on some of the plan things, but then there'll be others that will respond.
Councilmember Carby Montgomery, related to the business input, I mean, having the 8 meetings has been great to be able to start from everyone's different perspectives and kind of having it process into having one key vision. You know, looking at the business owners, there is a large contingent that is excited about this plan. There is another contingent that is nervous because change creates change. And so, you know, seeing how the area has remained steady throughout this whole time, and then this is a plan that's kind of gonna shake that steadiness loose a little bit to see growth happening. So there is a bit of concern out there. If I said that everyone's happy about this plan, I would be wrong, because that wouldn't be true. However, there is nuggets in there where people can see that, oh, if we can create additional activity down here, this would be good for my business. It also, more activity could mean new rent and things like that too. So there's that excitement, but also concern, because it would mean that, you know, business needs to get better to be able to remain in a better place.
Would you say that the feedback from the people that have been attending these 8+ sessions, as much as possible, has been incorporated into the final plan?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. All of their comments have been received, and we have made some good changes and amendments to this to get it into a good spot.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments at this point?
Well, what kind of feedback, if any, was received from the Planning and Zoning Commission?
I can answer it because I was there. Very positive, and one of the questions that came up is how on the placemaking aspect, that's where the question about the big node and little node came up. And so we were actually just having a little huddle beforehand, how to give these places a distinct identity. And with that, I'm going to ask you, Andrew, to just talk to that a little bit about the approach on the identity.
Sure. Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to be here and to answer a couple of questions. So the questions, zoning and planning, was about the naming, and admittedly, and as Curtis mentioned, that the term big node and little node is sort of a placeholder. That's not going to get anyone too excited. What we have to do is make a determination as to whether or not the identity of the place evolves organically, or whether the city comes out of the gates with a strong identity for the place. I tend to be biased towards an organic evolution of a place. I think there is sometimes risk in naming something before it is. However, at the same time, it's quite possible that in the big node or the little node, 2 or 3 properties might happen at the same time, at which point there's a better opportunity to coordinate it around an identity. If that's not the case, I would suggest that it be a more organic approach. One of the things we've also talked about is, in terms of the future, the design of the public realm, there's really 3 pieces to it. There's Douglas Avenue, and then there's the public space in, lack of better terms, we'll call it the big node, and the public space in the little node. We're recommending that it's not important for them all, the 3 of those places, to have the same palette, to have the same message, to have the same identity. In fact, it would be good if they were, all 3 of them were different, because the function of them will all be different. So I hope that helps answer the question. I do think that we as a team have a little bit more work to do on this topic.
What was the feedback received in the public open houses?
Yeah. So I was there. There were about 70 people, as mentioned. It was interesting because when working in a downtown, often my experience is you have a lot of people who are holding on tightly to what's there, which makes sense. It's a downtown. Downtowns are where cities started. I did not get that sentiment from much of the public. There are some nuggets that people feel strongly about. To be honest, so I was surprised about that. I was surprised about, or maybe not surprised about this, but I'll point out that a lot of people asked, okay, where do you start? And I've never actually had that people ask that kind of question. So that told me something about how people are eager. And then there were actually some questions about stormwater, which we just answered with factual. And that was interesting to me, that the citizenry is cares about stormwater. Sometimes that's not always a topic citizenry cares about. So I would say those were the 3 areas that I spoke most closely to people about, and the areas that I reviewed all the written comments as well, and those items came up. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Further comment?
Where did we land on vehicular traffic through the big node? Or any vehicle access?
Yeah. Okay, so good question. The plan recommends that there is vehicular traffic through the big node. However, it's done so in a very slow and controlled manner. So it is not the road, I'll call it in quotes road, because it's really a shared street that goes through the big node, is not a road to get all the way from A to B. It's a road to drop people off. There might be a little bit of on-street parking there. The volumes are extremely low. It's really all about access to spaces to businesses and spaces on the interior. That makes sense?
Yeah. There was a Axios Des Moines today about streets and street width and things like that. And so one of the things in that they were talking about with street width is like if you assume 11 foot or 12 foot as a lane, like instead think of like, could you justify a width like that? And so I was seeing on there that like it was 10 foot or 11 foot or something like that. So like, is that a typical starting point that you would use, or is that like, where do you usually start with that lane width?
And are you talking specifically the road in the?
In Douglas.
On Douglas?
Yeah, on Douglas,
Okay.
yeah.
So on Douglas, what we know is the wider, well, on any street, the wider the lane, the faster one is comfortable going. We don't, I think we're at 11 feet as a place to start, which is pretty common for a downtown street. Trucks can move on it at the speed the appropriate speed. Cars can move on it at appropriate speed. It creates a slightly shorter crossing distance for pedestrians. So it's interesting, you know, 1 extra foot changes the dynamic of the place quite a bit. 2 extra feet changes it tremendously. So we're recommending 11 feet as an appropriate downtown street that balances both movement to the businesses and moving through the place, as well as safe pedestrian crossing.
Any further comments at this point?
I guess the one thing with the big node, like I think we just want to keep kind of having that conversation about vehicle traffic and what does that look like, and how do we make a safe environment for everybody through there.
All right, we are in public hearing on this item. This is the opportunity to give public comment. Would anyone like to address the council on this plan? This is your opportunity. Okay, seeing. Anyone? All right. Seeing none, then, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Motion by Bodie. Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And again, thank you to the entire team for the process on this and the heavy lifting on this. This is a great project so far. We're almost to the finish line. We're not quite there yet. So, as Curtis pointed out, we will have a lunch and learn to have the council further discuss it on the June 10 lunch and learn meeting, and then we will have this for consideration at the June 17 regular council meeting. But thank you for everybody. For Andrew, thank you for your support in Bolton and Mink, and again, Curtis, for steering this through. Thank you for everybody for doing this. So this is truly a team effort. So, okay, we will move on then to item 7.2, and that's the public hearing and consideration of bids for the Complete Streets project from Aurora Avenue and 70th Street. The public notice for this was published in the May 2, 2025 Des Moines Register. Are there any objections to that? Notice is published. There are none. So is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And to introduce this item is our Director of Engineering and Public Works, John Larson. John?
Yep, so good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is our bid tabulation for our Complete Streets projects on Aurora Avenue and 70th Street. On Wednesday, May 7th, we received 3 bids on the project. We're recommending the low bid from Inroads LLC in the amount of $555,333.90. Their low bid is approximately $115,000 or 17% less than our engineer's estimate. And basically with this project, we'll have some safety modifications. We'll be reducing the roadway from 4 lanes down to 2 or 3 lanes. And then as far as the contracted quantities, we'll have about 2,700 tons of asphalt on Aurora Avenue, and then 1,150 stations of pavement markings and 187 pavement markings on Aurora Avenue and on 70th Street. So a little bit about our schedule. Right now, the project's anticipated to start after June 2nd, which would be after the Urbandale schools are out, and be completed by August 15th. And we have a stipulation that no work can occur between June 30th and July 6th for the 4th of July activities. We also, our plan is, once we get a chance to meet with our contractor, get his schedule, then we'll start working with Derek and the communications team on what kind of our rollout will be as far as, kind of the media announcements, social media and everything to kind of advertise the project as it's wrapping up and before it opens. With the project, we've given the contractor a couple options. One, on Aurora Avenue, they can close the roadway to do the milling and asphalt work from 6:30 a.m. to 8 p.m., or they can attempt to do it with one lane in each direction. Like I said, gave them that option. When we did the work of the original overlay back in 2014, the contractor chose to close the road, and I would anticipate they'd likely do that again. It's just much easier to do their work without cars right alongside them. But just want to be clear that it's 6:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's not a full closure all the time. It's just during the day. Also wanted to mention that we have an ordinance proposed to change the speed limit on 70th Street from Aurora Avenue north to Meredith Drive to reduce the speed limit from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. And we also propose some changes to the parking on 70th Street by Aurora Avenue and Meredith Drive, and I'll show a drawing of that in a minute here. Then a little more background on this project. We did have some public informational meetings. We held two, one on September 19th and the other on October 8th of 2024. And then we did have the CIP committee public hearing on December 16th, 2024, where we talked about all the projects. These two were included in that. And then we had our CIP public hearing that was on January 21st of 2025. So to kind of go into what kind of came out of our two public information meetings, there were some different concerns raised during those meetings. So we had our consultant look at those concerns, and I've just kind of run through some of the highlights on the major ones. We did have a request to add left turn lanes onto the intersection of 75th Street and Aurora Avenue. Our consultant looked at the traffic volumes and the crash history and monitored the intersection during some peak times. And their recommendation was to continue as we are now with no dedicated left turn lanes. There's also a request to look at additional pedestrian crossings to get over to Lakeview Park. Right now, we currently have our enhanced crossings at the middle school and at 82nd Street. And the recommendation was not to add another one in between those two, to use the two existing ones we have for crossing Aurora Avenue. There was a request for a traffic signal at 70th Street and Aurora Avenue. They did traffic counts, looked at the traffic signal warrants based on the MUTCD, and at this time, a traffic signal is not warranted at the intersection. Then there was also a request to kind of continue to evaluate how things would work at the middle school driveway. One of the recommendations was to extend the left turn lane, and I can go through that in a little more detail here. So I want to kind of show the exhibit, talk about what's happening at the middle school, and then just generally how the Aurora Avenue project will work. So for reference, as we're coming here, we get to 79th Street, and then as we switch from the top view to the bottom, so this here matches in with down here. We continue along in front of the middle school and then on east on Aurora. So what we're looking at for our typical cross section, as we will have a 5.5 foot bike lane here. This is a 3 foot painted buffer. We'll have our traffic lane for eastbound, traffic lane westbound, again the 3 foot painted buffer, then our 5.5 foot bike lane. So just to kind of show, if you would like to go east or west on this, so if you're in the bike lane going east, again you'll start out coming across here with the buffered bike lane. As you get to 79th Street, where we need to start doing our left turn lane into the middle school, we drop the buffering and it'll just be a painted white line along to differentiate between the traffic lane and the bicycle lane. Continuing down here, you're in your bike lane on across. You continue going east, and then as you get east of the middle school entrance, the 3 foot buffered bike painting or buffering area here starts back up again. If you're the through traffic going east, you'll be coming east through to 79th. Then you have your choice to either continue going east in your through lane, or there's the left turn lane that's created to take you into the middle school. So we're coming through here. If you're continuing on east, like I said, you'll come on through and you continue on your way. Now for the westbound, it's very similar that we've got one lane for the westbound traffic. You just come on through and continue, even up through here, everything continues west. If you are on your bicycle, you'll start off with the buffered bike lane, and then the buffering, then your bike lane. You can continue on through. We'll drop the buffering. You'll have the white line on each side differentiating between your traveled lane and the right turn lane and the bike lane. And you'll continue on through until you get west of 79th, and then we add back in the 3 feet of the buffering. As far as the cars, then also, if you were looking to go into the middle school, you'll be able to cross, go into the dedicated right turn lane and come in. So to kind of compare how this works today versus how it'll work in the future. Today, a lot of times with our 4-lane, the cars will be in what is this left turn lane here. That's where they sit in that current through lane while they're waiting to turn in. So I think it'll be very similar in the future that you'll still have your cars in the left turn lane instead of a through lane to turn into the middle school. And you'll still have a good eastbound lane that'll be able to continue east and not be held up by the cars. For the westbound movement, it's very common to have the cars in the right turn lane waiting to get in that spill back into Aurora. The way this is set up, the bike lane and the buffering is wide enough that the cars can be there and still provide the needed through lane for traffic to continue going west. If there happens to be bicycles using the bicycle lane, they'll just need to merge into the through traffic, come on through the intersection, then move back into the bike lane. So again, overall, I think it'll function very similar to what it does today, other than we have, I think, one additional safety benefit is if you are a student and needing to cross here, now you'll be crossing 3 lanes of traffic instead of 4. So again, and the biggest difference out of the consultant looking at it again, originally this left turn lane kind of ended here just east of 79th. Now it's to the west, so they added about another 100 foot of storage, so maybe another 4 cars that can fit into that storage. And then looking at, there's a lot going on in this sheet, but looking at how the parking changed on Aurora, which is here, and 70th Street. The black dots are where the current no parking is on the west side, and then these 2 black dots are where we have no parking on the east side. The red dots are where we're proposing to change the parking. So this will give you your parking, no parking on the west side, no parking on the east side. It's about a little over 200 feet south of Aurora and close to 250 feet on the north side. And really the reason for changing up the parking is now that we've added the bike lanes, we've got left turn lanes at Aurora. So if we had vehicles that were parked in this general area here, there wouldn't still be enough room to have a northbound, a southbound, and the left turn there. So again, just needed to move the parking so we could create that left turn lane. And then on the bottom view here, the 70th Street, this is Meredith. Meredith being the signalized intersection here. Today, it currently works as you've got a left, you can either go left or come right when you come to the intersection. This is one that probably should have always been a no parking, because if you have cars parked all through this right turn lane, you don't have a turn lane to turn right at the traffic signal. So what's being proposed is to have the no parking start back here so we truly have a dedicated left turn lane and the right turn lane. I guess with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. On the council communication letter here, the budgeted amount is like 1 million something, and the expenditure amount, and it says the budgeted amount is the sum of multiple CIP projects. What other projects are included in that?
There's 2 separate pages. There's an Aurora page and a 70th page. So we've combined the dollar amounts when we list that dollar amount.
So the expenditure amount is just for Douglas, or includes both of them?
Includes both. Yep, we bid
So where's
Aurora
the-
and 70th.
What's the rest of the $500 or $450,000 for?
Savings, other than we still gotta pay our engineering fees are
Okay.
all part of that. But yes, we basically, as we started fine tuning, our prices came down, and then we've got good bids as well.
Okay. My other question is on the schedule, you indicated no work during the 4th of July week. Are we putting conditions on what the street needs, what condition
Correct.
Aurora needs to be in when they leave for that week?
Correct. What they need to do is have it completely open. If they choose to try to mill and do the overlay before the 4th of July, it has to be 100% done, or there's a $5,000 a day penalty on them. So my guess is most of them will want to start after the 4th of July and get it done before the school starts. But we put provisions in there that said, yes, you have to get this taken care of.
So knowing that there's thousands of people on both sides of Aurora, they're lined up for days for the parade. I mean, they'll still be able to do that. I mean,
Correct. It's either start and get fully done before the 4th of July, or don't even start.
Okay.
I'm anticipating, if everything goes well, the milling and overlay can be done in 2 weeks.
okay.
So,
I just want to make sure we're not, that'll really upset
correct,
people.
correct. That's why we took that into account.
Thank you.
Yep.
How long will Aurora Avenue be closed?
That, again, if they choose to close it, it'd be during those limited hours, and then, again, for their milling and overlay, which I think would be about 2 weeks. But again, it'll open back up each night.
And the speed limit is only being changed on 70th North Aurora?
Correct. It's already 25 to the south, and Aurora's already 25. So it's more consistency through the corridor.
John, you already mentioned that, children that are crossing to go to the middle school are gonna be crossing 3 lanes rather than 4 lanes, which will be an increase in child safety. How will this change also impact the traffic speed through there, going from 4 lanes to 3 lanes?
Typically, the studies have shown that it does slow down the speed through the corridor. So again, we'll see how things go, but our intent is it should hopefully help slow things down through there.
Great, thank you.
I appreciate you going through, like, what in front of the middle school, like if you're a bike going westbound or eastbound, it's doing this. If you're a car going eastbound or westbound, it's doing this. If you're turning in, doing this. I feel like that's a really good opportunity to, like, use as an education tool as well. Because I think a lot of people are going to be looking at this and concerned about, like, what do we do here? What do I do here? Using that as some educational collateral that we can get out to folks so that they can see, like, this is kind of standard operating procedure for this area. Maybe even just like standard viewing at the high school or something like that, basically, to get that out there. One question I have is when there is that lane swap going right into the middle school where the bike lane and the right turn lane, there's a conflict point there.
Yep.
Who yields in that scenario, and do we have signage and indication that would help clarify that?
Again, maybe misspeaking here, but I believe as the car, you need to yield to the bikes coming through. I think it's similar to any time you see, in other communities where you have a right turn lane, you've always got the bike lane that you've got to cross their lane to go into yours. You need to pay attention to what's on your side.
Okay.
And currently, as it is, bicycles can operate as a vehicle and have the full ability to take up a lane as it currently stands, correct?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
That would let them merge, like I said, in this situation, it lets them merge into the traffic and then come back into the bike lane. Or for instance, on 70th Street, if there's still a car parked, you'd merge into the traffic and then come back out once you got past the parked car.
Okay, any further comments?
Yeah, I've got one more. To follow up on Amy's previous question about traffic calming, does the data tell us that by going to 3 lanes and by slowing traffic down, that reduces traffic accidents, auto accidents?
Correct. Information we provided during our public informational meeting, so looking at Federal Highways information, basically reducing the lanes and our layout here decreases total crashes somewhere between 20 to 50%. And the bike lanes can also lead to, you know, a 30 to 50% reduction in total crashes.
Thank you.
Anything further? All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? All right, sir. Please come up and give your name and address for the record.
My name is Larry Loss, and I'm a former resident of Urbandale. I now live in Clive, and I'm here tonight representing the Iowa Bicycle Coalition, where I am a board member. Thank you for holding the public hearing and allowing citizens and organizations to offer input on issues affecting the city. While we might not all agree on the direction that we want the issues to go, that's okay. But it's important that we have an open and respectful discussion of issues in front of the council. The Iowa Bicycle Coalition advocates for safety issues pertaining to cycling and pedestrian movement along and across public roadways and trails. In the last 2 years, we've been able to get legislation passed that enhanced pedestrian and cyclist safety in crosswalks and restricted the use of mobile devices while operating motor vehicles. The governor has signed both of those bills. We view Complete Streets project as perfectly aligning with our mission of advocating for safe and enjoyable cycling opportunities. As a cyclist, I search out bike trails and bike lanes, and I support communities that provide safe cycling options for me. Specifically, bike lanes provide a safety level for both cyclists and motorists, as the bike lanes designate where the cyclist should be. Just recently, the Des Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization released a new report and safety plan. Contained in the plan were 2 findings related to bike lanes. Bike lanes can result in a 49% reduction in crashes between drivers and cyclists, and converting a painted bike lane to protected bike lanes reduces those crashes even further by 53%. These findings are similar to data we've seen from other cities across the country. The Iowa Bicycle Coalition believes the Complete Streets project will bring additional safety to cyclists and motorists navigating the streets in Urbandale, and we encourage you to approve the resolutions in front of you tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Larry. Is there anyone else that'd like to address the council? Luke?
Hello, Luke Hoffman, Iowa Bicycle Coalition. I'm a resident of Des Moines, but I represent a statewide organization, the Iowa Bicycle Coalition, of which Larry is a board member. And I just want to quickly add to what Larry said, just saying thank you to the Urbandale City Council, the mayor, for moving forward this resolution. I think it's something that's really important to bike safety, but also just roadway safety. As Larry mentioned, doing things like bike lanes does help reduce traffic incidents relating to bikes and cars, but roadway safety generally, I think, is also improved by the changes that are being proposed today, and I think everyone stands to benefit from this, so I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that's been put into all these measures. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Would anyone else like to address the council? Yes, sir.
Scott Sumter, 2909 Southwest Ridgeview Lane, Ankeny. Thanks for Luke with the Bike Coalition for the invite here, the alerting. So who am I? I founded Bike Iowa in 1999 just to promote everything cycling related. I organized the first Bike to Work Day in Des Moines area in 2001. We kind of promoted that statewide. And tomorrow is going to be my 21st year of doing the Rite of Silence for the Des Moines area for cyclists who get hit and killed on Iowa's roadways. So pretty passionate about cycling infrastructure in Iowa, especially in the Des Moines area. I definitely ride through Urbandale quite often. In fact, I can still get lost in some of the Urbandale trails. There's so many, right? Passionate about our resources, our amenities, our multi-use trails, the bike lanes. They make all our communities more accessible. I'll also say I do like my cars. I value my time, and I don't like too many rules. So on that, I mean, progression's hard. We all get set in our ways. Our patience runs short, but behaviors can change over time, right? So this isn't the first accessibility standard improvement we've seen come across. I mean, in the early 1900s around here, there wasn't a stop sign at any intersection, right? well, in 1924, the AASHTO standards made stop signs a standard. Stop signs went to traffic signals. That was in the early 20th century. Crosswalks became standards in the 60s. Curb cutouts for wheelchairs, walkers, strollers started in the 60s and became standards in the 90s. Visually impaired, so you got the detectable dome tiles where as you go from a sidewalk into the road, the plastic sheets actually started in Japan in 1965, which is kind of crazy, but became standard in the US in 1991 with the Americas with Disabilities Act. Audible traffic signals, first used in the 1920s, 2009 they became standard. Push button pedestrian signals, we're letting the pedestrian choose when they can cross the road. Started in 1929, became a standard in Iowa in 2021. And then we move on to the four-lane roads in suburbia. And this happened after the World War II baby booms, the big cars and the beginning of the suburban sprawl. You know, you got to turn that big Cadillac around. That was in the 1960s and 1970s. Then road diets in the later half of the 70s, road diets kind of became, hey, let's shrink this up again. And road diets, kind of what we're looking at now, became standard in the 1990s. And so you even look back, about half of the people in this room probably went through the seatbelt law in 1986. That's a huge change, trying to think about that, and you're probably going to get pulled over and everything. But now the other half of the people in this room know no different. It's a standard that we all know. So it's just kind of interesting on how accessibility standards happen. I mean, obviously we didn't wait for 10 blind pedestrians to walk off a curb and die in traffic. We didn't wait for 10 people in a wheelchair to go off that curb into traffic either. These are accessibility standards that happen over a period of time through thorough studies and hopefully enacted early enough to make our communities safer and enhance the quality of life for those in need. I believe this road diet in Urbandale's Complete Streets program is just another accessibility standard. I often see road diets being marketed as being bike lanes only. Kind of irritates me a little bit on the public's perception that we're going to shrink down the roads just to get 2 bike lanes for a handful of cyclists, which it's truly all about safety. Lowering the speed, less distractions, dedicated turning lanes, and leads to less accidents, less injuries, less fatalities. Safety for the students, families, and everybody who uses those corridors, whether or not you're on foot, bicycle, or car. Just also want to note that there's no way these bike lanes would happen on their own. You know, it needs this safety aspect. It needs everything else. I mean, we just don't have the numbers in Iowa nor in this community to say, hey, we got enough cyclists for bike lanes. But by golly, I'll definitely take that extra space that's left over from that road diet, making the roads safer for bike lanes. So that's kind of like icing on the cake for us cyclists to see that amenity come out of this. Your Complete Streets program was adopted in 2019. Safe, accessible, and connected. And I think it makes sense. I think this is just another phase in this program that makes sense. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anyone else like to address the council? All right, seeing none, then is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Carpenter Montgomery, second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote.
It passed.
It
Just
passed? Okay,
Actually,
thank
we're
you.
in another little hiccup.
All right, that passes. So then we have 4 items for consideration.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make some comments before we
Okay.
go on to the voting. First of all, I'd like to appreciate Scott, Luke, and Larry for coming to the meeting and supporting what we're trying to do here. I take my role in this council very seriously, and representing the public is my job. And I feel that the current layout we have on Aurora is not safe. Could be a lot safer. There's a lot of points of conflict. There are lots of conflicts on this stretch of Aurora. we've been trying to do this project for a couple of years, but we decided to take a break and get more public comment because I felt strongly, as well as some of the other members of the council, that people probably weren't given enough opportunity to have feedback. Back in 2019, when the Complete Streets Plan was approved, people in these neighborhoods might not have known that this was going to impact their neighborhood. So I really appreciate that we stepped back and took more time to do education and get additional input. And I appreciate the consultants and our engineering department taking that feedback and making some enhancements to the plan that is before us today. So my number one priority for this project has always been improving safety for pedestrians, vehicles, and cyclists. And I strongly believe that what we are about to pass, I'm assuming, will do that. And I look forward to seeing this implemented, and hopefully the construction will go smoothly this summer. And I like Blake's idea of maybe doing some sort of educational component that we push out to through the schools on how to use these new lanes and new crosswalks and things like that. So that's just what I wanted to say about this project we've taken a while to get to, but I think we've done it right this time. So thank you to everyone that's been involved in this.
Ditto.
Anybody gonna make a motion?
I will, let's see, what are we doing? I will move Resolution 162-2025.
163?
Second.
I believe it's 163.
162.
It says
Oh, I'm
162
sorry.
here.
We have four, we have actually, I'm sorry, I was on the, thank you. There's a motion by Bodie, second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. So we have 5 items for consideration.
It's loading currently on mine. Where's it popped up? There's the old one. That's the old one.
I don't have anything.
Apologies, it's now spinning.
You want to take voice votes?
Sure, hold on.
No pressure.
Here comes James to the rescue.
Now it's just spinning. Oh my gosh. See, now it's just spinning. Like eye compass is hung up.
This is not there, is it?
I don't, do you?
I do, mine popped up.
Oh, yours popped up. Mine did not.
You're hot.
Okay, maybe I'll go now. Hold on. Now I gotta restart the meeting. Hold on. Oh. Oh, now I got 3 votes. Yeah, it came up. Send again. See what happens.
I don't have anything, but Joe
I
has
voted.
something.
Cacciatore?
Yes.
Kroll?
Yes.
Okay, that item passes.
It does. I don't know why it didn't pop up. I apologize.
Move 163-2025.
By Bodie,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote.
That passes.
That passes, thank you.
Move 164-2025.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote.
That passes.
That passes, thank you.
Move 169-2025.
Motion by Bodie,
And second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote.
That passes.
All right, thank you.
That's it, right?
No, the
No,
first ordinance of
move the-
2510.
yeah.
We have to move the first ordinance of 2025-10.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
That passes.
All right, thank you, Angie. I just want to say a few comments as well on this. Thank you, everybody, for their support. Thank you for everybody tonight for their support. John, you mentioned one point, and I had to think about this, when we did the overlay in 2014. And I think, help me remember, but I think at that time we had considered impregnating the lines into the overlay at that point, hadn't we? So we've been talking about this since 2014. Yeah, so I've been around this project for a long time, and since 2014, obviously. This is a special moment for me. I do, as Bridget, you said it very well. Can't say any better than that, but it truly is about safety. It's, you know, there are unfortunately some folks that maybe think that this is not about safety. This is going to reverse safety. I think it's truly a project that will be safe for all. Once you actually go through it, and John, thank you for being a yeoman on this. You've been going through many iterations through the years, so I applaud you for getting this to a completion too. So thank you everybody for their support, and this will be a great change and a great project for our city to make it safer for everybody. So thank you. All right, we'll move on to regular agenda items. First is item 8.1, excuse me, and that's to consider the stormwater utility rates starting July 1, 2025. John, will answer any questions on that if there are. Now, is there a motion?
Motion to approve Council Letter 8182.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.2 is to consider the 28E agreement. Oh, actually, sorry, Chief, I'm going to introduce Chief Cardwell to present the next items. The first is item 8.2, and that's to consider the 28E agreement with Clive. So, Chief?
Mayor and members of council, I would like to introduce a couple of guests we have here tonight with us. The city manager from City of Clive, Matt McClellan, is here with us tonight, as well as the fire chief, Clay Garcia, who is here. For those of you that aren't familiar with this agreement that we're going to be talking about tonight, we actually started these initiatives 8 years ago, where at that time, Chief Rick Rowe and Chief Jerry Holt got together and said we could do things better for our citizens, which was the first closest unit response agreement. And as it became time to look at it again and update it, we said, well, if they got us to this point, well, we can definitely go further. And that's what these arrangements are about tonight, is looking at the partnership between our two communities and the special bond that we share and the ability to provide fire and EMS services at what is truly the best for our citizens. So we have a couple of different agreements for you tonight. The first one is simply the expanded closest unit response agreement. The biggest highlight that we're doing in there is we're really moving to the next level in terms of aligning how we operate as a fire department, that we've agreed to share our training plans, that we're sharing a reserve fleet, that we are going to make sure that we've got good continuity of command at different places whenever there's a fire. Again, really just taking two separate organizations and aligning them as one in terms of how that we operate. And that's the first one that we're going to be dealing with tonight. I can go and introduce all three if that's okay with you, Mr.
You
Mayor.
you just want to highlight them all, and then
Yeah.
we'll just take votes on it?
So the second one was sort of an outgrowth of that, which is, okay, if we're going to share reserves, we should probably make sure that we're maintaining them at the same level and doing things the same, that type of arrangement. So that led to the possibility of reaching out to our Public Works and saying, would you be willing to take on Clive Fire Department as almost a customer? And so we worked through with Finance and Public Works, did a terrific job of helping us get to the point where basically we are going to take over the Public Works is going to be doing all of the fleet maintenance, which also includes fleet management, which is an important part of making sure that we're getting the most out of the dollars that you're spending on fire apparatus, which is very expensive. definitely a big advantage for Clive in terms of knowing what their costs are going to be, but also really decreasing downtime, which is a big problem when you're trying to outsource all of your repairs in different directions. You spend a lot of time with the truck just sitting there broken. Now, as we joke, we're literally just going to push it down the hill and it'll be at our shop. So definitely a big plus there. Plus the whole concept of fleet management, which again is really savings. And for us, it really is going to help us in terms of providing additional resources, not only for our own maintenance at the fire department, but also across for fleet maintenance as well. So another source of revenue to help with that. And then in looking at that piece, we said, okay, well, that makes sense to do this, and it makes sense to align the fleets. But you know, it really would make sense if Clive's fire ladder truck was parked in Urbandale Station and Urbandale's spare engine was parked at Clive Station. We said, all right, let's just swap them. So we went out and asked all the legal people, is that legal? And they said, yeah, why not? So we went ahead and did it, got them appraised. We had a couple of issues come up with the maintenance on one of the trucks. We took care of all of those things, figured out a good fair price difference between the two, and have before you tonight the agreement to actually, we will be purchasing Clive's 2013 aerial ladder truck, which will become our reserve. They are purchasing our current reserve engine, which will become their reserve engine. The big saving, the big difference there, especially for Urbandale, is previous version of the CIP had a replacement or reserve ladder of $1.8 million, which in today's dollar is now over 2.1. And now we are able to push that purchase off another 8 to 10 years. So a really significant savings. Plus, it does give us that Quint ladder truck that we're purchasing from Clive, does also function as another reserve apparatus for both departments because our operators will know how to operate it, their operators will know how to operate it. So in essence, we're doubling our actual engine reserve capacity at the same time. So a really big plus that, and I appreciate Clive and Chief Garcia and Matt's work in putting all this together and getting us across the finish line. So that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And
All right, thank you, Chief. Any questions for the Chief?
I just want to say, I think this is just a model of government efficiency, and I wish I could sing it from the rooftops of every house in Urbandale so that every state and federal official heard what we're doing. But I'm just really proud of this, and I think this is just does a great job serving the citizens of Clive and Urbandale, and I really appreciate even taking this to the next level tonight.
Is that a motion?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so first is item 8.2. We need a motion on resolution.
I move approval of Resolution 144-2025.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And then item 8.3 is the 20AD agreement for
I'll
the
move
medical
a-
services and fire apparatus maintenance.
Move approval of Resolution 145-2025.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.4 then is the fire apparatus exchange agreement.
I'll move approval of Resolution 142-2025.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Chief, thank you for your work on this.
thank you. Clive is actually going to be considering the same amendments on Thursday night, correct? So I will be present at that meeting, and then we'll be across the finish line ready for mayor's signatures.
All right. Matt and Chief, thank you from your standpoint. Again, we've talked about this a lot, but this is truly something that is, again, we allude to, the intergovernmental cooperation is great. We're going to take it to the next level. So thank you for all you've done on your end. Please convey our appreciation to your elected officials as well on this. So thank you so much. We will move on then to item 8.5, and that is to consider the acquisition of 1.45 acres of ground at 4786th Street. And to introduce this item is our Economic Development Director, Aaron DeYoung. Excuse me. Aaron?
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Aaron DeYoung with Economic Development. Before you is consideration for a purchase agreement for 1.455 acres along 86th Street up here on the screen. You can see it's kind of mid-block between Plum Drive and Meredith on the west side of the road there. And this is the intent is for a relocated location for Fire Station 41. And before I get into the what is the agreement, we wanted to remind all of you about the why. And there's somebody better than the Economic Development Director talking about why to move a fire station. It's the guy behind me. So I'm going to have Chief Cardwell tell you the why.
Sure. You may recall that we did a facilities study approximately 3.5 years ago here, looking at all of the buildings that the city owned, and Station 41 was of primary concern. It is a 50-year-old building, and it was built as a 50-year-old building to serve as a volunteer fire station. At that time, just to bring the building up to serviceable condition was approximately $400,000 to $450,000, but didn't address any of the other issues in terms of long-term replacement or anything like that. So, recognizing that we needed to rebuild the station, the question was then asked, where's the best place to put a station? Back at the same place here on campus or some other location. So a study was put in place at the beginning of 2023 to look at that question. And the recommendation from that study, and the maps that you see there are part of that study, was in the area of 86th and Meredith. As you can see from the top map, the area in the upper left-hand corner where there isn't purple, those were deficiency areas in terms of our ability to respond in a timely manner. They did the study 3 years ago. You can see relocating the station to the area of 86th and Meredith. You'll see it filled in that gap, but it does leave what appears to be a gap a little bit to the south. So as we looked at that issue, that's where all of what we just talked about really comes into play and is important because of this. This is an overlay map of what our travel area, our travel time works with our partners. When you factor in Clive's location down on 8800 Hickman, it covers almost everything out in conjunction with Windsor Heights. The only thing that is now outside of our coverage area really is the mall and the immediate area around that. But if you were to overlay our heat maps, which is basically where the most of the calls were, our biggest gap was truly to the north, and relocating the station here based on travel times, based on where the calls are located, our ability to provide duplicate services. This location, compared to all the other locations that were studied, was the best location. We've been looking at different options for property in here for probably the last year and a half. And I'll turn it back over to Aaron to say where we go from here. But in terms of location, this was identified by the consultants that did the work as being the optimal location to build a station based on the needs of providing fire and emergency services in conjunction with our partnership with Clive.
Great, thanks, Chief. So the parcel here is a subset of a larger parcel, about almost just under 4 acres, which is currently owned by PMR Realty, which is an LLC owned by R&R Realty. We do have representatives, Adam and Kara there, hey guys, for being here. So if there are questions related to the purchase agreement that they can answer, they are here tonight. So again, it's 1.455 acres. Total purchase price is $1.1 million. The intent with the negotiation that we had was $15 per square foot. Normally in a commercial transaction like this, the private roads are kind of half on one parcel and half on the other. And you know, with the city owning this parcel, having a privately owned controlled road on a public parcel, it created some challenges for our legal team to get over. So we have moved the parcel that we own outside of the private road and have that be still placed on private property outside, but still keep the intent of purchasing the other half of the roadway through the purchase price. So that is the intent there, and that's further clarifications are in the staff memo if you have that there with that. So additional considerations with the purchase, because there are a few things, because we're buying a commercial property. One of the benefits is that this parcel is intended to be served with regional detention to the south and to the west of this. And so that will be great. We don't have to put on-site detention for the fire station. Also, the plan for the construction of the private roadway, most likely the city will be the first development within this the intent here is that the first development will build the road, and then the second development will reimburse for the other half of the road when it is developed. Because we have agreements that we're working through the due diligence period on the shared maintenance of the detention area as well as the private roadway. And then also, because this is a part of private covenants, because it's a commercial development, from the city's perspective, to make sure that the intent is still clear on both sides, that the intent of the design of the building will be similar to Station 43. That's why I put the picture there. It's a beautiful building. We would probably build it again down this way. So to lay out that clear intent that it's going to be a quality building for the neighborhood and for our commercial neighbors in the future. That was a very quick presentation. Happy to answer any questions, and we also have others in the room that can answer the ones that I cannot. Thank you.
So question on the roadway. So is it that we're buying 2 lots, like lot 2 and then the half of the roadway?
No,
or how does that?
Yeah, we are purchasing one lot, and the private roadway here on the screen, the private roadway is north of the red box, which is what we're buying. So the private roadway will remain entirely on what is currently R&R's parcel, then to the north. But the intent in the purchase price was to use basically almost 1.7 acres, because 0.3 acres is half of the roadway. Is that? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, so we're paying for our half of the roadway, but saying.
Plus our parcel,
It's
yes.
your guys' roadway.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Move approval of resolution 165-2025.
Okay, motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Adam, Kara, thank you so much. We appreciate that, so. All right, item 8.6 is consider the engineering intermediate distribution frame fiber retermination and expansion project. Wow. Derek, James, is that just IT speak? I mean. If there are any questions on that, including what that means, you can ask James.
Move approval of resolution 171-2025.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.7 is consider the professional service agreement for the Walker Johnston Park Master Plan, and to introduce this is our Parks and Rec Director, Jan Herkey. Jan, you have a much shorter title than James does, so.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you know that James does that. He just puts the
I know.
title so you don't ask questions.
That's right. It's the flux capacitor agreement.
Exactly, exactly. Before you tonight is the professional services agreement for doing the Walker Johnson Park Master Plan. We've talked about this a number of times through the different budget process and other meetings that we've had. As we have in the CIP, different infrastructure needs for the softball fields that we said, let's take a step back and see what does the community actually want. Do we want softball fields, or could it be something else? So we are looking to do a master plan to get community input to do just that, to find out, to reimagine the Walker Johnson Park. So we sent out the RFQ to 20 different firms. 8 firms submitted their applications or RFQ submissions. And 6 staff, so 5 from Parks and Rec, 1 from engineering, reviewed those. We brought in 4 firms and evaluated those and outlined in the council letter. And recommendation is to move forward with Confluence for doing the master plan. And just as a FYI, that Matt Carlisle, who's with Confluence, is from Urbandale, and he did a lot of the work as currently at Walker Johnson Park, so very familiar with that park. So we are excited to move forward with that, and the goal is to have results from this as we go into the CIP process, so we can make recommendations then on phased opportunities if there are changes at the park. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Questions for Jan? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve resolution 166-2025.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. Pass. That passes. Item 8.8 is consider the service agreement for the fire safety systems inspection and maintenance services. And Scott would answer any questions if there are.
Move approval of resolution 167-2025.
Okay, motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And we'll move on to special topics. We're going to have a Parks and Recreation project update, so I'll turn it over to Scott Hope. Scott?
My favorite topics.
I know. Scott likes it as much as you do, though. I think.
Right, we had quite the wrestling match to see who got to speak for the longer item. So, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk about a few things that we had kind of happening last fall, coming into now this spring. There's a lot of calendar items in here too, so we want to make sure and get everyone's calendars up to date and know exactly what's happening with Parks and Recreation or what have we been up to. The first one I want to share, we do have a ribbon cutting plan for June 10th at 5:30 p.m. at the Walnut Creek Regional Park for the new playground that was installed last fall. It's already getting great use, but we're going to have the official ribbon cutting on June 10th. And then immediately following that, we just get to go up north a little bit, and we'll have the ribbon cutting for Phase 2 of Barrett Boson, which was also completed, kind of finished up this spring, but was completed last fall with some great new additions. You can see the eagle's nest, or it could be bird, I don't know if it's an eagle, I guess, but up there, and some other great equipment, so that we're very excited about getting that moving forward too. So that'll be on, again, on June 10th. And then on June 19th, we'll have the ribbon cutting for the creek access right over there at Walnut Creek Regional Park, or excuse me, at Walker Johnson Park. That project is pretty much finished up. We still have to install the artwork. That is part of the project. That's not in there yet, but we'll hold in suspense until that gets completed. So this one's been a long time coming. This has taken us a little while, so a lot of steps in the process, but we're very happy with the end result. Also want to share Rick Bowles was completed last fall. We have new playground. There's some pour-and-play surface at Rick Bowles, and then of course we have a new restroom there as well too, which is a great addition to the park.
Remind me what that park used to be called?
It was South Karen Acres
Okay.
Park. And
So
then-
it's on Douglas, or right off of Douglas,
No,
isn't
that's
it?
North Karen.
Oh,
So
okay.
North Karen will be coming up in a
Okay.
slide here, but South Karen is
Okay.
Roseland, yeah.
Great, I knew we renamed it, I couldn't remember where it was.
Well, it's a great place to go walk and visit now because it really looks, it's had some great improvements. This is Days Run Park, which also received some new playground last fall. Some of these were last year's CIP. We'll be moving into some that are this year's as well too. And then this is North Karen Acres, which also received playground equipment last fall as well too. And now we're into our this year's projects. We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule. If we can get our playgrounds in before school gets out, we can get in during the year, but once school is out, all the installers start doing school sites. So we are happy to get a couple of these moving. So Horizons Ridge has received some new playground. And also sharing, we had some great trail improvements thanks to engineering. John and Kristen help us with these a lot. Last fall, we did a replacement there. Colby Woods Park, it kind of through Delwood all the way down to Colby Woods Drive through there, a great addition, again, taking out some of the old asphalt and putting in concrete. And then this spring, we just recently completed the area through North Park and then a little connection in Sylvan Ridge. So those were a great addition. We just got that seeded on Friday right before the rains hit, so timed out very well. So. And then Ashleaf Park, we removed the old playground. They started putting in the new playground. A few of the pieces that we got from the factory were not quite right. They weren't sized correctly, so we have them shipped. They're actually showing up tomorrow, so we hope to have that back in and up and running really soon. So. And then we are moving on some of our Lions master plan improvements. Phase 2, which was the pickleball courts and the basketball courts primarily, also a lot of retention as part of Phase 2. The basketball courts are good to go. We still have to we'll have a small backstop behind the hoops to help catch anybody that's really shooting outside of their range, really. That's the only time you really need it. But we'll have those installed yet. And then they've been trying to get the pickleball and tennis court lines painted. Last week was honestly too windy. They couldn't do it. Right now, we're a little too wet. So as soon as we get favorable weather, we'll have those painted, and we should be ready to go with Phase 2, just in time for Phase 3, which was approved a couple meetings ago. Phase 3, just to remind everyone, that is for primarily all new playground equipment. There's a few pieces that are staying. And then it's the pull-in parking on the south side of the park. All of this work is scheduled to start after July 4th, and then the roadway stuff, all the parking stuff is scheduled to be done before school starts. The playground, because of getting the installers here and timing that, we're a little more flexible on when that'll be done. But all of that should be done this fall as well, too, so we're excited about that. We've had some great artwork. This is the mural project up at the American Legion building. The unveiling will be, why is that not coming up for the date, Jan? It'll be June 17th. Oh, there it is, June 17th at 5 o'clock. So again, another one for your calendars.
Sorry.
And just want to share a little bit in regards to a couple weeks ago, we had Earth Day, we had Arbor Day. We had some great events during that time frame, and we always like to share those with council. If you notice, we planted 31 trees out here in the complex. Also included the tree for AJ got planted as well too. We had volunteers from Stantec, Hy-Vee, and the students from Valerius Elementary came and helped us as well. We had 30 students. And if you have the opportunity to work with 30 kids and have shovels and all of that involved, make sure if you have a heart issue, you keep your distance, because it can be a little unnerving sometimes. But we got through it injury-free, so we were excited. We also had some cleanup at Dunlap and Memorial Tree Park on Earth Week as well. And then we've been busy planting trees. Lions received 14 trees as part of Arbor Day. We have 54 trees that'll be going in along 156th, probably going in next week as part of planting trees in the medians.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like really exciting. Really, really exciting.
Yeah, we
It's
did.
the best part of this whole presentation.
We did. But the best part. But
No, I'm just extra excited to hear about that because Clive has left, but we have long since lagged Clive on especially that median on 156th Street.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities for trees in there. So very excited about that. We did plant last year. We planted along Meredith. I think we did 74 trees. Out of the 74, we only lost 2, so those will get replaced. But that was a great planting for us as well too. We planted 30 trees around the creek access, 12 trees in Sunflower Park as part of the getting things reestablished after they did some creek work. Engineering did some bank stabilization in there. Ash leaf, obviously ash leaf had a lot of ash trees, so we're trying to get a few trees back in there. The regional park got 7 planted around the new playground, and then we had another 8 or so in just some miscellaneous parks. So those are great numbers that we have to water, right? That's the challenge of keeping them watered through the Julys and August. But I wanted to share with council that when we do plant, we do try and do a variety of trees, so no more than 15% of one particular variety, in order to make sure that if something does happen, another bug comes, we're able to adjust to that and not be devastated. And I would say probably 99% of, maybe 98% of what we plant are natives as well too. Occasionally we'll put something in there that has a little bit more color to it, but most of what we plant are natives as well.
Scott, is that 15% like across all the ones you planted this spring or within a location?
Usually we do it based on the project itself because it's a little harder to keep track of that way. But when we do it on the project, it breaks out through the whole numbers as well too. So we're usually pretty close on that. And this year we were able to have our first year of our starter tree program, the tiny tree program. Different communities have different names. We sold 240 trees at a reduced cost of $25 a tree. You can see the trees that we sold over there. And actually we've seen a few of those trees because we have a few, and they have really popped and have gotten.
I got to give you a shout out for American Hornbeam. Good job. Nobody even knows that's a native, and it's such a great tree. I've got it in my front yard. Thank you. Okay, sorry.
You bet.
American hornbeam. No one, great.
Yeah, it was not our best seller, so next year maybe promote that a little more, 'cause we- it's not our-
help you out.
Do you have any left? Do you have any left?
Well, we held some back to plant ourselves,
Yeah,
so we
okay.
are planting quite a few of those. Well, I think we held 5 of each variety back to put them in there. Yeah,
The name is not as attractive as the tree.
but it's got American in it. You'd think that would sell good. We thought it would.
There's something about hornbeam
Hornbeam's
that
good,
just.
So marketing for next year.
But a great turnout. We had 2 days for tree pickup. We had some volunteers there helping us, and of course our staff. And Jan is always ready with the camera, so those are great pictures for us.
And a mic.
And a
Camera
mic, right. So getting a little into our timber area, garlic mustard is a struggle for us, especially in the Colby Woods area. It has really taken over, and we've kind of worked at it the last couple years. And it'll take some time, right? It's not a 1-year turnaround. But we had over 400 kids from Valerius Elementary School, 2nd through 5th graders, down there pulling mostly garlic mustard. So
And Pat
we
Bodie.
had some.
And Pat Bodie.
I
so you
love pulling garlic mustard.
You can see what they collected. I think the kids had a blast. They were here for half an hour probably to get through and learn a little bit about the importance of some of the environmental stuff. Great volunteer group that came. And then we had another group come down 2 nights later and do some pulling as well too. So it is something that we'll work with the next few years and hopefully get it well taken care of. So.
I would say if there's a way for us to get more engaged in that work, I'm happy to coordinate volunteers to come down and help.
Yeah.
with it
I'd
as
be
well.
happy to lead a council team.
Right.
I can teach you.
Amy's good with a power saw, just so you know.
Say that again, Joe.
Power saw, Amy.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You don't need
Good to
that
know.
for the garlic mustard.
No.
Right,
yeah.
you might.
It was just a sawzall. It was not a power saw.
The
I was going to
honeysuckle.
comment, though, that I'm not seeing as much this year along that stretch of trail that we worked. So I think we're starting to have a little impact.
A few things that are coming soon. So the solar study, in December, we went under contract with a group to study 6 of our buildings and see feasibility regarding to those buildings being able to support some solar. The study is complete. They got it to us about 10 days ago. Our plan now is to bring it before those groups that are the departments that are connected to those buildings, whether it's the library, fire station, here at City Hall, and have those discussions and make sure they're understanding what is being presented and what is being in the study. And then once we get through that, then the plan is to bring it here to council as well too. So we're in line with if this comes forward as a CIP project or things like that. So that's just kind of the timing of moving that forward.
They looked at a canopy out here, too, didn't they? I looked at the RFP, and that looked like that was in there.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep,
okay,
yep.
great.
They looked at some field locations, they looked at the carport canopies, and then they looked on top of buildings as
Beautiful.
well too. So,
I'm just wondering if, given the excitement level of the council on this study, if a lunch and learn might be appropriate place for us to discuss our excitement
yeah.
before it comes to council.
I
don't know.
It is within the consultant will be giving a presentation on that, and we can talk with David a little bit on how he best wants to move that forward for sure. So.
Yeah, that would be great. It's very exciting.
Also coming soon, bids are due for the Walker Johnson shelter. It's replacing the shelter over by the police station, the shelter in the restroom, and the Dunlap restroom. The bids are due the 28th, and so it should be before council on June 3rd, I think, is that council that it would be coming forward on, depending on how bids come in and that sort of stuff. So that would be kind of a fall construction item. The targeted date for completion is April of next year. So that's the goal on those two. So those bids are coming soon. Jan shared about the Walker Johnson master plan, so we were excited about that. And then the timber study, if you remember, we entered into an agreement actually last year about this time with Tom Roseberg, who is he's a instructor at Drake University. He loves plants. David met him. So we were out driving around looking at some things, and Tom was out doing the inventory. So initially we were going to do a 1-year study with Dr. Rosberg, but he came forward and said, you know, this would be more effective to study some of the species that are out there over a 2-year period, because he'd get a better inventory. And he didn't want to ask, he was not asking for more money, he was just asking for a little more time. We thought that was very appropriate. He's, you know, giving us some things to be working on in the interim, and be putting forward. But that study now is a 2-year study as opposed to a 1-year study. So we are just starting the 2nd year with that study. But he is out there, again, doing inventory and checking on things. So just for an update on that and how that one's coming. A couple other events, again, these are calendar items. I would make sure you really mark June 29th. One of the strong performances will be there at the Gabus Memorial Tree Park for some of our performance series that'll be happening this summer. And then Party in the Park, really the one to watch, June 13th over here at Walker will be coming before you know it. So make sure you have that on your calendars as well. And then I will say thank you and ask if there's any questions.
Is someone sending us all of these dates, or are they already loaded somewhere?
And you will, right?
I will send you the dates when I have a
You're good.
chance tomorrow.
I just want to say how much.
I haven't had all of them, so.
No, you're
first
good.
I've seen them, so.
I just want to say how much I appreciate an update like this. It's so exciting. You guys do such great work. It's so fun, and it's really nice to kind of get to see it all at once like this, and very helpful to get the updates on some of those studies and things like that. Thank you. Thrilling.
I got a couple of questions. When is the splash pad opening? Or
It should open Friday.
Okay, fantastic.
Afternoon, but Friday afternoon we should be
Okay.
open. Plan for the weekend.
Any changes or updates to the mobile rec program? When will that get out on the street?
It'll be posted, it'll go live tomorrow, and then,
Okay.
Schedule goes live tomorrow.
And then, just watching my teenagers at home, sand volleyball seems to be another thing that they have developed an interest in. And I don't think we have any, do we have any courts? We do?
We have one at North Karen.
Okay.
There's one court there, but that's the one that we have right now.
Because I know there's one at Centennial Park, and like the lights weren't working, and so they had to like go way into West Des Moines. I don't know. I think it's a good evening activity for kids. So I don't know if it's something we could kind of add to our list of maybe looking at adding some lighted courts in an appropriate spot at some point. As I'll make sure my kids attend those meetings.
Question on one of the slides you had, the Lions Park Master Plan kind of as a background item. Pull it up here. Yeah, so the detention area,
Yes.
is that a bridge over it?
No. So that was more in the concept stages. We haven't done anything over in that corner yet. So that includes maybe some upgrades to the band shell and that kind of stuff, and we haven't gotten to that phase yet, so.
Okay.
But it was in the plan, but that'd be a future one for us.
Okay, but there is some sort of consideration for some level of crossing over that too.
Yeah, we'd have
Okay.
to take a look at it. Again, bridges get kind of expensive,
Yeah.
when you're not going too far, so, but,
Sounds good, thank you.
yep.
Anything further? All right, thanks, Scott. Thanks, Jan. Great report.
Yeah, we hate to talk about all the stuff we're doing. It just really, it is such a struggle.
All right, item 10, the city manager report, David.
Well, I had planned to discuss the significance of the 3 intergovernmental agreements with fire and EMS, but Bridget beat me to it. And then Chief Cardwell and Matt McQuillan and Chief Garcia also ran out of here pretty quickly after that issue was done. So I'll yield my time tonight.
All right.
I'm so sorry.
Amy.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things going, and I just want to say, first of all, thanks to those of you who can make it to the kickoff of the Blueprint to Address Homelessness. We've had several follow-up meetings already, and that work will continue, and I plan to see Bob on Thursday, yes? Okay.
Right here in Urbandale.
It is here in Urbandale. It's open to the public if you have nothing to do over the lunch hour. It's from 12 to 1:30 at the library. That is the Homeless Coordinating Council and a reimagining of that work that really kind of governs the plan. I think all of us are slowly recovering from DC, which was always fascinating. I'm sure someone else will touch on it. I was able to attend the Monarch ribbon cutting last week. I'm
Last
losing,
Wednesday.
losing track of my days, which was really great to see everyone come out and support that work. Grill and Chill was awesome. Yeah, and that's it. And I'm excited to check out Pat's Yard for an American
Hornbeam.
Great, that's all I have right now.
All right, thanks. Joe?
I did attend the last P&Z meeting. Wanted to hear some of the comments about the downtown master plan, and you've already heard some of this, but there was some focus on the word node. What does that mean? And that kind of evolved into a discussion about what would we call this space. But I thought the comments, I agree personally with the idea of letting it develop organically. You know, people will start calling it something. And but it was interesting to hear the comments there. It was pretty supportive. A couple of folks had comments about economic viability of the project, and I think it's being viewed as very ambitious, which I think is a great thing. Trip to Washington, David, I think you told us we could now take credit for the federal government lifting the freeze on hiring for the special census. So
It happened as soon as we left town.
so I'm taking credit.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
All right, thanks, Joe. Blake?
Just echo comments about DMDC. That was a really great experience, and it was good to have everybody, minus Bridget, with us there. I know you were holding down the fort, so. Wanted to put a thanks out to the Urbandale Waterworks and Central Iowa Waterworks for coming to the May Lunch and Learn. That was a good time. And it was really interesting to kind of hear some of the different projects that are going on and what's going on around those two projects or those two organizations and some of the history too. I noticed on my calendar, May 27 is the grand opening for The View on Hickman, I think. That's
Yes.
accurate. So looking forward to seeing that. I think that's going to be a really cool project. One thing that I wanted to ask about is when it comes to the strat plan, just getting an update on kind of where are we at on certain topics? Where do directors feel like we are going to be able to cross the line by the end of the year on certain things? Where do we feel shaky, and where do we need some clearer priority on different things? So.
Yeah, that we have started some conversations, first of all, in getting it updated and getting an official update before the council. More specifically, too, I'll be reaching out to the council, asking for face-to-face meetings with everybody, too, to really talk about the first 4 months, 3.5, 4 months, and specific to the strat plan. Again, trying to shore up, the work that we're going to be doing over the next 6, 12, 18, and 24 months, and how aggressive those plans are. So more to come on that. But we actually have a formal update that's coming in terms of the work that's done. So there's just an incredible amount of work, incredible amount of progress that's being done in a lot of these areas. But yeah, more to come.
Excellent. And the last thing I have, Curtis, to borrow your comment, better is better. I feel like that is kind of the theme of tonight, is better when it comes to public safety, when it comes to access, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to all these different things that we're doing, parks and trails and different things like that. So just want to say that thanks to everybody that have been working on these different things. Downtown master plan, like better is better. Like I think that's a really good way to put it.
Maybe that should be our new tagline, Derek.
Instead of uniquely Urbandale, better is better. Bridget.
I think DART should have trademarked reimagine, the term reimagine for within the metro, because everybody seems to be reimagining things these days. I noticed Amy mentioned it with your plan. There was, I think I communicated this via email, but there was a strategic decision made to kind of push back reimagine DART process until the legislature adjourned. And they adjourned right before it was too late really to get back on track. So we're gonna be about a month behind. So the meetings that was supposed to be last week are now into June. So, but we're moving forward. I am the representative of the minority party on the Dallas County Temporary Redistricting to determine the boundaries for the 5 supervisor districts that will be on the ballot in 2026. The biggest thing that we're waiting on is a determination related to the special census that Waukee did, if the 7,000 new residents of Waukee will be included in the total number of the population for the county. And then additionally, whether any annexations completed since 2020 will be included. So that's a discussion between the county attorney and the Dallas County attorney. No, the Secretary of State's office and the Dallas County attorney, who also used to serve as a Secretary of State. So that's kind of an interesting situation. But we're waiting for a decision to be made on that. So ultimately, it doesn't get kicked back to the committee or the Board of Supervisors. And a couple of other important dates for your calendar. There are 2 30th anniversary celebrations coming up that I think are really important for the work that we're doing in Urbandale, or trying to get started in Urbandale, but going on in the metro. The 30th anniversary celebration of the Polk County Housing Trust Fund is next Friday, June 30th at 4:30. May 30th, sorry, at the Krause Gateway Center. And then the following Monday is the 30th anniversary of the Neighborhood Finance Corporation. And that'll be Monday, June 2nd at 4 o'clock at Columbus Park. And this is about next week is the anniversary of me moving to Des Moines to work 26 years ago to work with these 2 programs. And so blows me away that these still are operating and as wildly successful as they are. So I plan to be at both of those, and hopefully you guys can join me.
What time is the Polk County Housing Trust Fund?
It is 4:30.
Okay. Pat, yeah.
I want to say I got to go to the active shooter training. I hate saying I got to go because that's just a terrible thing that we do. We have to do that. But it was really well done. Thanks to the police department for putting that together, and for the library. And Derek and his folks were there, and John Conyer and other people from the city. It was not long. It was really worthwhile. I'd love to share what I learned, because I learned a lot, but I won't do that. I'll get something wrong. I really wanted to thank all the folks with respect to this downtown redevelopment piece. It really looks so good. And there's a question I've been meaning to ask all night and keep forgetting to ask. If we're going to be moving out of Fire Station 41, what are the plans for that as a bit of a catalyst for the downtown redevelopment plan? I haven't heard anything about that. That doesn't mean you haven't been talking about it. I've just missed that conversation. So that might be kind of a cool thing to think about. And I really wanted to give a shout out to the launch of the Sustainable Urbandale Action Plan by virtue of the greenurbandale.org. Do I have that right, Derek? This website piece is really well done. You can get right to it with greenurbandale.org, and then you can find quickly things that you can do as an Urbandale resident that are meaningful sustainably. And so it's a really nice piece. I would like to suggest that we have a lunch and learn on the Walnut Creek Watershed Management Association's upcoming strategic plan. We'll be voting on that sometime in June, but it doesn't matter that the plan, it doesn't matter exactly when we have that lunch and learn, but there's a lot in that plan that's valuable for all of us to know more about. I've taken really good notes, and at some other point when we have a little bit earlier meeting, I'll share more, but I still think we'd benefit dramatically from an actual lunch and learn. And then a quick report on ICON. Things are going really well. I was just at a piece where they had received a $350,000 grant from Bank of America for the Fluor Drive, or the Fluor facility, and there will be a groundbreaking on that, and I'll try and get that date to you on that. I probably have more, but I'll shut up now. I think that's enough for now.
All right, I don't have anything further specific. I know we've talked everything to death, but I just want to say, I'll just sum it up again by saying, tonight was a good night for good government, so with a lot of good things tonight, so.
Better is better.
Better is better.
Well,
Thank you.
and if I mention, I did mean to mention, I really wanted to thank John in particular for that presentation tonight on the Aurora project, because that was a level of detail that was really valuable, I think, for the public to get to see and you mentioned it earlier, when you walked us through the project and went through the history. It was really valuable. Thank you.
He's only been working on it for 11 years now, so.
Yeah, yeah.
But seriously, that's, when he said 2014, I distinctly remember we were talking about it then, so it blows me away that we've been talking about it that long, but we got it done. So, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.